When you're learning English, one of the most significant steps to becoming fluent is learning how to think in English. Thinking directly in English, without translating from your native language, is a skill that not only speeds up your communication, but also makes your language use more natural. The key is that your brain has to make a shift. And while it might seem challenging at first, it's a process that can be trained with time and practice. The human brain is naturally wired to default to the language it knows best. For most people, this is the language they grew up with, the one they've spoken since childhood. So, when learning English, it's completely normal for your thoughts to first appear in your native language, and then for you to translate them into English. This is what causes the delay when you speak. You might find yourself thinking of the perfect sentence in your native language, only to struggle when trying to convert it into English words. This is because translating is a multi-step process that slows everything down and can lead to awkward sentences or mistakes. The solution to this problem is to train your brain to skip the translation process entirely and think directly in English. Neuroscience has shown that language learning involves creating new neural pathways in the brain. When you start learning a new language, you're essentially training your brain to handle new structures and ways of thinking. This is why it can feel difficult or uncomfortable at first, like learning any new skill. But just like with exercise, the more you practice thinking in English, the stronger those neural pathways become. Over time, you'll notice that certain English phrases or words start to come to mind automatically without you needing to translate them. This is a sign that you're starting to think in English, and it's a major step toward fluency. One of the main reasons thinking in English is hard for many learners is that they rely too much on translation as a safety net. When you first learn a new word or phrase in English, your instinct is to translate it into your native language to make sense of it. This habit is helpful in the beginning, but as you advance, it becomes a barrier. When you're constantly translating in your head, you're not giving your brain the chance to fully immerse itself in English. It's like trying to swim while holding onto the edge of the pool. You're not letting yourself dive in. So, one of the first steps to thinking in English is to let go of translation as much as possible. When you learn a new word or concept, try to associate it directly with an image, idea, or situation instead of translating it. This might feel strange at first, but with practice, it will become more natural. Immersion is another critical factor in learning to think in English. You don't have to move to an English-speaking country to immerse yourself in the language, though that can certainly help. There are many ways to create an English-speaking environment wherever you are. Surround yourself with English as much as possible. Watch TV shows, listen to podcasts, or read books in English, even if you don't understand every single word. The goal is to get used to hearing and processing the language without needing constant translation. This constant exposure helps your brain get used to the patterns and rhythms of English, making it easier to think in the language. The more you listen and read in English, the more familiar it becomes, and the less effort your brain needs to understand it. A good way to start thinking in English is to talk to yourself. It might sound a bit odd, but self-talk is a powerful tool for language learning. Throughout your day, try to describe what you're doing in English, even if it's something simple like, "I'm making breakfast," or "I need to call my friend." By narrating your actions, you're practicing thinking in English without the pressure of conversation. You can also try to describe your thoughts or feelings in English, no matter how basic the sentences might seem at first. The point is to get used to forming sentences in your head without translating. This practice builds confidence and helps your brain get comfortable with thinking in English. Another technique is to label objects around your house with their English names. This might sound like something for beginners, but it works for more advanced learners too. When you see the word door, every time you open your door, your brain starts to associate the object with the English word automatically. This kind of visual reinforcement helps your brain make direct connections between English words and the things they represent, bypassing the need for translation. You can take this a step further by labeling more complex items or even actions like turn on the light or put on my shoes. These small changes can make a big difference in training your brain to think in English. One important aspect of thinking in English is being patient with yourself. It's easy to get frustrated when you can't find the right words or when sentences don't flow as smoothly as you'd like. But remember that thinking in a new language takes time and practice. Just like learning to walk or ride a bike, It's a process that requires patience and persistence. You'll have moments where you slip back into your native language or struggle to find the right expression in English, but that's part of the journey. The more you practice, the easier it will become, and eventually, you'll start noticing that you can think in English without even realizing it. To reinforce your progress, it's helpful to engage in conversations with native speakers or fluent English speakers as much as possible. When you talk to someone in English, you're forced to think in English in real time, which is an excellent way to train your brain. Even if you're nervous about making mistakes, the more you practice, the more natural it will become. Over time, you'll find that you're able to keep up with conversations without needing to translate every sentence in your head. Thinking in English is a skill that can be learned, just like any other aspect of language learning. It might feel unnatural at first, but with practice and patience, it becomes easier. The key is to immerse yourself in English, let go of translation, and give your brain the time and space it needs to adapt. By consistently practicing these techniques, you'll reach a point where thinking in English feels as natural as thinking in your native language. When that happens, you'll have taken a major step toward fluency.